Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Minister. Thank you in particular for your support of open government and particularly your recognition of its benefits to citizens of New South Wales, to businesses and indeed to agencies. I would like to commence with a reflection on your earlier comments about the significance of this evening and later events this evening, and you will know when my slides go up that they have a very persuasive blue hue about them. So the opportunity to speak with you all here tonight, and I think Dan is my friend down the back there who I'm signalling to for slide engagement, because I am presenting you with quite a rich set of data this evening, and that's because today was also an important day in that we launched and tabled in Parliament the inaugural report on the operation of GIPA Act over the last 3 years. So moving to that persuasive blue hue, I really appreciate the opportunity of speaking with you this evening. It's an affirmation of our commitment to open government that we are all here today, launching such a significant piece in the community of practice. And it's also a great pleasure to speak to those who are the true disciples of open government. I think we need to just go back one slide if we possibly can, Dan. So I wanted to contextualise the presentation today with reference to the state plan, which you're about to see, the objects of the GIPA Act, and an outline of our achievements with reference to the findings contained in the Section 37 report. You can breathe a sigh of relief. I demonstrated to you that the report is a sizable document. It does cover 3 years and it has some 90 pages. Tonight, it's only a snapshot that you'll receive. I'll leave your bedtime reading till later on this evening. Turning now to the state plan. There are 3 fundamental goals in the state plan that are all incredibly relevant to the advancement of open government. In particular, goal 32 is where we realise the commitment to the provision of data, the provision of information to better inform both our service delivery and our policy development. The objects of the GIPA Act, which is the next slide, really codify the desire to advance a democratic government that's representative, that's open, accountable, fair and effective. Citizens of New South Wales are interested in and affected by how resources are used, how services are delivered, and how authority is exercised. The GIPA Act facilitates information accessibility through 3 primary pathways, and those primary pathways apply to 5 sectors. That's government departments, state-owned corporations, ministers of the Crown and their staff, universities and local councils. So now we test against that governance arrangement or authorising environment how important information access is to the citizens of New South Wales. The IPC conducted a very brief survey with a small sample of 340 individuals earlier this year, and that was part of preparing for the inaugural report. We found that 52% responded saying that information access rights was very important. 32 stated that it was quite important on a scale of 5. So collectively, 84% believe that information access rights are very or quite important to them. That really testifies to the work that you do in advancing open government and the importance of that work to the citizens of New South Wales. Now turning to the inaugural report. This is very exciting to be able to produce these findings this evening. So overall, the Section 37 report will provide a vehicle to advance both to identify immediate short-term requirements and advance longer-term strategic goals as contemplated by the Act. The results of this retrospective analysis are really very promising, and they confirm our collective commitment to advancing open government. Using the Section 37 report, I've identified a way forward to further advance open government, which includes working collaboratively across all sectors to improve decision-making and competencies, and implement an integrated reporting framework that better allows us to identify data sets and progress the proactive release as intended by the Act. So, turning to the substance of the report. are we delivering? It's one of the questions I ask. So over 3 years, we had 50,000 plus applications. Lodgements have been steady over those 3 years, although there was a dip in one particular period. As you'll see, the government sector receives most of the applications, and of that government sector, you'll see 3 primary areas responsible for generating the greatest number of applications, and that's police, roads and maritime, and work cover. Turning to who applied, over half of all of the decisions related to lodgements by members of the public, both legally represented and as individuals. The report has some very interesting insights, and this graphic contains one of them. Media only accounts for some 3% of applications. You will also see, though, that business is very interested in applying for information held by decision makers, and this can reflect the value of the information that we hold in terms of commercial activity within New South Wales. Over time, we saw a big jump in applications by the not-for-profit sector and community groups, and again, this is a trend that we should be monitoring as service delivery takes place through the not-for-profit sector. So the next slide deals with what and when. What was asked for, and within what statutory timeframe were decisions made. Just under half of the decisions related to applications made for information other than personal information, although I would comment that the body of the report indicates that over the 3 years those two levelled out, and personal and non-personal information is just about equal. The types of applications were also influenced by the type of information held in the different sectors, and likewise outcomes reflected those sectors, the information held in each sector. Very, very pleasingly, 87% of all applications were finalised within the statutory timeframe, and only 3% exceeded 35 days. The report comments that government agencies in particular have been through a significant change in recent times, a structural and administrative change, and to achieve that outcome is very promising indeed. Further positive outcomes are contained on the next slide. When we asked the question, did applicants get what they asked for? And in particular, we focused on members of the public, because members of the public represented some 61% of all applicants. And in 75% of cases, the information was released in part or in whole. Additional positive outcomes were about the review process that is provided under the Act. So internal reviews represented the majority of review applications. 73% were conducted by way of an internal review, and the outcome of those internal reviews is incredibly interesting. The internal reviews varied the original decision in approximately 70% of cases. From that, we can assume that as a result of the internal review, a different decision was made. Now, the applicant for the internal review is going to be the person seeking additional information. So in 70% of cases, following a review, additional information was provided. That too goes to the way forward in terms of our competencies and how we make those decisions. The next question is addressed by the following slide in relation to the proactive release that the Act envisages. So if we turn to that slide, you'll see that there is a steady increase and a parallel increase in the number of reviews being undertaken of agency websites and the information that's then released. So what we can take from this is that the report confirms that the Act is achieving its goal of improving the general approach of decision makers in providing timely and proactive release of information, giving the citizens of New South Wales confidence in government decision making. On the next slide, I've indicated an overall view of outcomes following the Section 37 report. The report indicates that the timely and flexible approach to decision making that's envisaged through the GIPA Act is largely being met, and that's demonstrated by consistent and credible levels of information being released, high levels of timeliness in making decisions, an increasing number in valid applications over the 3 years, the application of the public interest considerations that reflect the type of information held by the agencies and sought, and greater release of information through agency reviews. Turning to the way forward, the next phase that I, as the Information Commissioner, and the IPC will work towards is achieving greater maturity in 3 key areas, and we've identified those throughout the report. The reporting framework. In the short term, we'll look to improve our data quality, which can be achieved through a more flexible reporting framework and enhanced use of complementary data, particularly around the proactive release. We shall improve operational competencies through training and shared best practice models. We'll create more effective service delivery channels and thus enhance our compliance with the Act. In terms of enhanced decision-making, we need consistent decision-making methodologies to train and educate decision makers, and crucially instill an environment of proactive release of information. A focus on better decision making via training and education will lead to consistent decision making methodologies, and that's integral to the work that's spearheaded through the community of practice. So indeed, it's a vehicle by which the community of practice can champion information access rights. The outcomes of the report and the outcomes of the work that you undertake make a significant contribution to the advancement of a system of responsible and representative government through open, accountable, fair and effective decision making, and through demonstrating that Sir Humphrey was not correct. Thank you.